This is an invitation-only webinar with the lovely John McGuigan, dog trainer expertise extraordinaire. How are you, John?
I'm very well, how are you?
I'm very well indeed, this is one of a series of webinars we've been doing to talk about how dog owners who maybe get dogs that are pulling or being aggressive or jumping up on people can be transformed into beloved, happy little furry friends in about 15 minutes a day. And John is the man to show you how to do that. You might want to have a pen and paper ready to take any notes of any insights that you might have, or actions that you might want to take, or lessons that you've learned. We're probably going to be on here for approximately 1 hour, so be here the whole time because you're going to get some good information tonight. And if you can't, then be aware that this is being recorded and it will be available in some format somewhere at a later date. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you, John, for being here tonight. What are we talking about tonight?
So we're going to talk about dog-to-dog aggression, which is a very common behaviour problem that I deal with, and it probably is about, conservatively, this or some aspect of this accounts for at least 40% of the work that I do.
Wow, okay. So dogs having a go at other dogs?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Right, so do customers and clients come to you saying I've got an aggressive dog, or is it something you tend to notice once you start working with people?
No, so very often what they'll do is if they email me and they're looking for some help, they'll already have identified that their dog is showing aggressive or it's now described as reactive behaviours towards other dogs. Probably maybe about 10 years ago, we started describing it as reactivity, but basically it's an aggressive display. So it's usually lunging and barking at other dogs, and lunging and barking uncontrollably at other dogs. So it's not just very often that they lunge and bark, it's that the lunge and bark cannot stop. So it can be an extremely stressful behaviour to live with if your dog is showing that, because it takes away a lot of the joy of what most people have with their daily lives with their dogs. So taking it to the nth degree, it can be that people can't take their dog out the garden, so the dog spends most of the time in the garden, or they will walk their dog at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, or at midnight, in order to avoid everybody else, so there's no chance that we're going to run into other dogs. So it can have a it does have a significant impact on the people who are living with this problem. So
It's a big deal when you encounter it quite a lot. Is it something that can be changed easily, or is this more of a kind of long-term thing?
Very often, once it can be changed fairly readily in most cases. With most cases, we will see a difference in that, working with that dog within the first hour, just by explaining to the person what the dog is trying to achieve and then how to try and meet those needs. So just the first hour, just very often we have a wee bit of a kind of light bulb moment with the clients when they understand that the behaviour is not in the dog, the behaviour is in the environment the dog is in, which we've spoken about before. And once they understand that there's lots that they can do to change that environment, which we'll talk about over the course of the webinar, and putting that into play fairly readily. And we also have to look at the owner's history of being reinforced. So the reason why they behave in a certain way is because they're anxious, scared, terrified, apprehensive, or anything along those kind of spectrum of emotions of their dog getting into a fight with another dog, the embarrassment of it, the dog maybe biting somebody or another dog, so that they've got all that to live with, and very often the handling that they do gets in the way of the dog making progress, and it's generally tight lead handling, stiff bodies, and holding their breath, and all those things now become just a whole series of cues to the dog that this is not a cool situation. So the first hour, very often we'll spend some time just trying to take pressure off both the dog and the owner, so that everybody can relax, and then when we relax, we can learn.
So, is there any such thing then as an aggressive dog, or is there more to it?
Yes, well, again, it depends. Would you say that there's an aggressive person? Some people are more prone to be aggressive, but if you don't put them in a situation where they're likely to be aggressive, then they're not going to be aggressive. And aggression is not a bad thing. It's just a bad thing if that's what you do all the time. So
Yeah.
very often it's an extremely useful set of behaviours to have, because um, it keeps us safe. That's the purpose of it. It's there to aggressive displays are there to make sure you don't get into a fight, and then if you do get into a fight, the more aggressive you are, the more likely you are to survive. So from an evolutionary point of view, it has served most species. What we're really talking about is inappropriate aggression. And without getting too philosophical, we could have a big discussion alone on what's appropriate and what's not, but that's for
Yeah.
another time. So it's really what we're really talking about is your dog displaying aggressive behaviours in situations where the bulk of the dog population wouldn't express those same behaviours or exhibit those same behaviours.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So if someone's listening to this, what you've talked about, obviously, maybe going for other dogs. It's going to be more than just standing there barking at the dog. It's actually going to be having a go.
Yeah, it can range from growling, barking, excited vocalization, pulling in a lead, bouncing up and down, lunging backwards and forwards, lunging forwards, um, to biting, and really that's what we're. So you're right. Once we would have to kind of identify or describe the behaviours that we're talking about, but we're really talking about that set of behaviours: growling, lunging, barking, snapping, and biting towards other dogs and people slightly different from this, because there's different things that we need to do, but it's really it's very, very, very similar when you're treating both sets of behaviours.
What's the
um,
worst you've seen? Sorry to interrupt.
uh, no, not at all. The worst dog I have ever seen with this was a big bull lurcher. So the bull lurchers are sight hound or a greyhound crossed with some sort of bull breed. So they're generally like a greyhound, but big head, more muscular, so extremely powerful. And this dog could not see another dog at 100 yards without going doolally.
Okay.
You know, I mean, really lunging and barking and baying at the end of the lead, not able to relax. And the closer the dog got, the worse the behaviour got. So that's a pretty unmanageable dog, and lots and lots and lots of management in that. And what you also have to look at as well is you then start having to look at the ethics of putting a dog who is that aggressive through a stressful training program, regardless of how kind the methods are using, where you could, with lots of stuff, fairly easily manage that dog's environment to make sure the dog isn't running into other dogs. So, and that would be in extreme cases like that, it may be necessary to walk the dog at 6 o'clock in the morning or at midnight, put them in the car and take them away to somewhere, a secure dog run, and exercise the dog there. But they're that out of the 4,000 odd hours of client facing time I've had, that's one dog. So
Right.
those they're extremely they're so rare that they're actually, we should really only be talking about them amongst professionals, really,
Right.
because they're so rare, so.
Okay. So you've got a number of videos lined up here for us. What are we going to see in the first one?
Right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through, I made some notes here, so we're really just dipping our toe into this. So I've got a 6-week course on issues like this for owners, and we do 4 classroom inputs and then 2 practical inputs. And the reason why, when you go through the stuff that you actually have to learn when you're dealing with dogs like this, it's pretty mammoth. it's one of the reasons why I'm actually only just skimming the surface of this, because dealing with aggression should be done by people who are skilled and experienced with dealing with these issues. I was fortunate, and I'll put that word in quotes, that when I started this, through using old school training methods, using choke chains and metal collars and stuff like that, I actually let my two mastiffs, who were my first dogs back in kind of 2000, 2003 when I first got them, they were big dogs that became aggressive towards other dogs. So that was before I started into dog training professionally. So that's the reason fundamentally why I am here. If it hadn't been for those dogs, we might not be having this conversation. I'd be away doing something else probably. And so I already had some skills living with these dogs on a day-to-day basis. And then my previous job, I was in the police before, and I didn't realise how many transferable skills that I had from being in the police to dealing with aggressive dogs. So you're just dealing with an aggressive being, member of another species, you know. And so when I designed this 6-week course, when I sat down and broke down all the skills that you have, it's pretty mammoth actually. And the 6-week course that we do 4 2-hour classroom inputs, and then we do some practical work at the end, and that's so that the owners have got some sort of knowledge as to what they're doing before they then start working in an environment where their dog is going to display aggressive behaviours, because it's such the potential for it to go wrong, you know, or sorry, what can potentially happen when it goes wrong is serious. Whereas if you're training a friendly dog and a recall and a dog doesn't come back to you, you know, and you're in a public park or something like that, there's not an awful lot that can go wrong, you know. Obviously there's some stuff, but so I'll go through a few things. So there's a 6-point training plan, and that's credited to Eva Bertelsen and Emily Johnson Bay, who are 2 trainers from Sweden. So they have a 6-point training plan. So what they'll say is, what are the goals for my dog's behaviour? What's the plan to get there? What's the goal for our own behaviour? So what do we need to do? What's the plan for us to learn those skills and those behaviours? We then need to train ourselves to do those skills, and then we need to train the dog. So that's a lot before we. Yeah. So that's what we actually should be doing before we even put our hands on a dog, you know. Yeah. But people are living with these problems on a day-to-day basis, so we need to try and give them something that they can do within the space of an hour, which you'll see in the videos that we're going to show. So then, I'll need to get the reference for this. I can put it on the notes for this, so because I don't have the reference, which I should have. So it's the rules for aggression reduction. So you need to understand the scenarios under which your dog will display aggressive behaviours, and always be ready for that scenario to take place and for the aggression to take place if those factors are in play. All right. Recognise the precursors. So that's things like growling, lipping the dog lifting his lips and baring his teeth. So you can quite often get the dog showing his teeth without growling. So you'll just start doing this. Okay. And very often what has happened, by the time the dog comes to us, the person has started punishing those behaviours. So what happens is the dog shows those behaviours, and we now chastise them and tell them no. And those are the warning behaviours that we really want to be looking out for. There's a bunch of warning behaviours that happen even before then. Okay, so the dog will generally try and disengage, generally will try and walk away. You know, if the dog approaches them or the person approaches them, they will generally try to leave. But because they're on a lead, and we don't recognise what's going on, we don't allow them that space to leave. Okay, so what happens is that those precursors, or the warning signals that the dog is not happy, have been suppressed through telling a dog no, correcting the dog, or whatever. Okay, and what you're now doing is you've not removed the dog's need for the space from the scary dog or person, but what you've done is you've removed the ability to tell the dog to tell you that they're not happy. Okay, so that's a big one. Okay, we then need to use redirection or apply an appropriate training strategy. So redirect the dog onto doing something else, or put in play a training strategy that we've got. Okay, when you recognise those precursors. Okay, wee bit of kind of slamming the stable door here, but stop or avoid the situation before it starts, and that means from the early stages. So while you get your young dog or your puppy or your adolescent dog, is to recognise all those precursors and then do something about it at that stage. But that is a wee bit too late, okay, for what we're talking about here. And then try and keep records of what we're doing, okay, so that you know what progress you're making. Now, there's two ways that we can. Once a being on this planet has learned a behaviour, we can't unlearn it. Okay, so you can get less practiced at it. Okay, so if I was to ask you how long you've been driving a car for, how long have you been driving?
God, at least 30 years.
Okay, so you will never unlearn that. Okay, unless God forbid you got dementia, right? Okay, but we're not talking about that, right? And I'm not being disrespectful there. Unless there's some sort of physical degradation in your brain, you're never going to unlearn that.
Yeah.
But because you've been driving for 30 years, okay? But if you haven't driven for a year, your driving skills will be rustier than they are tomorrow. Okay? So we want to try and put roadblocks. There's two strategies. Once the dog has learned that an aggressive response gets the outcome that we want, and what we've talked about that previously, generally aggression is to tell the thing that the dog is being aggressive to go away. That's a broad generalization, but it happens in most cases. You get some dogs that actually like a bit of a fight and they just get a buzz from it. And then you've also got predatory behaviour, so the dog they're actually not being aggressive, they're hunting at that point, and that's slightly different. So it's a different mindset. But we're talking in the main about dogs that are using an aggressive reaction or an aggressive display to try and repel the oncoming dog or person. Okay?
Okay.
So once the dog has learnt that that's a strategy that works, they can't unlearn it. It's always going to be in their behavioural repertoire. Okay? So there's two ways that we can do it. There's two ways that we can change the behaviour. We can either constantly suppress that response through punishment. Okay? So that would be always correcting the dog, always being on top of the dog, using leash corrections, metal collars, electric collars, rattle cans, and all that stuff, which we don't use. Okay, so that's one way that you can do it. Okay, but what the fallout with that is, when you stop doing that, the aggression will now start coming back up because you've not trained a replacement behaviour to achieve the same result. All that you've done is just keep smashing that behaviour down, and when you stop it, it will start popping back up again. So that's the first way, which we don't do. The other way is that you start teaching the dog different behaviours in order to achieve the same result. Okay, and you build skills and confidence in a dog that result isn't necessary in the first place. Okay, so if I'm not lunging and barking because I'm frightened, I'm lunging and barking and I'm frightened because the other dog is too close to me. So if the person is not too close to me or the dog is not too close to me, I won't lunge and bark. If I'm not frightened by their presence, I won't lunge and bark. So those are the two elements that we can use in order to change the dog's behaviour. Okay, so that's really what we're looking at, and that's what we spend quite a lot of our time explaining to people. If you just give yourself distance from the scary dog or scary person and let the dog watch, the dog will now offer behaviours which are reinforceable. So the absence of an unwanted behaviour for the purposes of what we are doing has to be a wanted behaviour. Okay, so if you hold the dog back, which you'll see in some of the videos, and give the dog other things to do, they now start going, oh, I can see that dog and not go nuts. And that now gives us an opportunity to reinforce those behaviours because we can't do nothing. So just now, so Logan, my dog, is who you'll see in some of the videos. He is lying, sleeping on the couch, okay, on another couch. That's what he's doing just now. He's not doing nothing. He can't do nothing. He's alive, okay?
Yeah.
So even if he gets up and stands in front of me, he's not doing nothing. He's standing in front of me, looking at something,
Yeah.
okay? And those are now behaviours that I can reinforce if I so desire, okay? So that's the first part. We'll go on to some of the video in a second, okay, because there's a few other notes, all right? So the skills that the handler needs to learn or be aware of, observing the environment, observing the dog's body language and understanding what that means, anticipating what is about to change in the environment based on what is happening, be aware of our movement and know how to move, know how to handle the lead sympathetically to the dog, identifying which reinforcement we're going to use, so whether that's food, toys or space from the other dog, blocking the other dog from following through on a potentially unwanted behaviour, and that would be done by the lead, so the dog would move forward and you need to learn how to block them safely on the lead. Having been able to make a dynamic risk assessment about what's going on, okay, and being able to do all that in a dynamically changing environment, okay. So this is why this is a massive skill set for people to learn, all right. So it's when I actually sat and broke that down, you're like, this is a lot, which is why it's only experienced, skilled people that should be doing it and offering advice on it, okay. But we want to offer some advice so that somebody can go away today and go, I can try that, and I can try that safely, okay. So the skills that your dog needs to learn is they need to be able to accept blocking. So if they move towards the end of the lead, they need to be able to accept it. When that lead becomes tight on their collar or harness, that's as far as they can move, and understand that that's as far as they can move. They need to be able to move within the range of the lead and move with the handler as the handler's moving, and we'll hopefully see that we'll see some good examples and some not so good examples in the video. Switch from one activity to another, okay, and that's about engaging different parts of the brain, okay. So if your dog is eyeballing another dog, that's not compatible with sniffing and searching the ground, okay, because sniffing and searching the ground is a seeking behaviour, and it's about the emotion there is kind of curiosity, whereas eyeballing another dog is not a seeking and searching behaviour. That's a safety behaviour, if you like, okay. And the emotion that goes with that is wariness, anxiety, whatever we want to talk about, whatever we would label that, okay. So switching from one activity to the next, and the more that you can build that up in your dog, the easier they're able to get to do these skills, and to be able to discriminate what's important in the environment and what's not. So you can do lots of things. So even just clicker training your dog in your living room to do a whole bunch of, so if you trained 5 behaviours and the dog is able to bang them out first time, so if you ask a dog to sit, stand, lie down, roll over one way and roll over the other on 5 verbal cues, the dog has now started picking up the skill of being able to discriminate. That's important and that's not, okay, and listening for the words. So these are things that you can do. So a dog who has got more skills is generally easier to work with than a dog that doesn't, okay. All right. So now that you're totally blown away by everything that you're going to have to do if you're working with a dog who is showing reactive behaviours, we can start. We can start looking at some of the videos, and it's just so that you understand what's actually going on there. Okay. So watch the first video.
Okay.
Towards her.
Lovely.
Lovely. To her mouth again.
So we'll just watch it first, and then I'll talk through it.
Good, just hold her there. This is fine. Keep looking at her.
Lovely,
That's fine.
nice.
Nice, good choice. It's her mouth this time, and you're going to have to step in to deliver it to her mouth, okay? She's a wee bit further away from you. Good, it's okay, you can go into the hot dogs. Just wait, don't rustle, that's nice, good. Let her sniff. Good. Lovely. Nice. That's really cool. Good, give her a second, this is nice, keep looking at her, this is beautiful. Lovely.
Okay, so we can just pause that there, and then I can go through it. Okay. So, Ali is the dog, and I can't remember what the client's name is, so I apologise. But Ali's a dog, and she's recently been adopted. So she came in from Europe, which is why she's got no tail and those cropped ears. And she's just young. She's only about 10 months old, and she is shows these behaviours that we talk about. So she pulls forward in the end of the lead when she sees another dog, bounces backwards and forwards, and lunges and barks. Okay. So what we've done at first is we've provided her with the safety that she needs through using an appropriate distance. Okay, so you can see John and Millie in the background. So that John and Millie, that is a Labrador, and so we're using those now because I know John and he goes to the park every morning. I know that Millie's going to stay around John and not come in towards us. Okay, so we hold it at that distance, and now when she looks, we're allowing her to look at Millie because she needs to know where she is in order to make assessments of whether she's safe or not. Okay, and this is not a look at me, look at me, look at me. Okay, this is allowing your dog to look if she wants to. So if you are terrified of snakes and you're sitting here just now and I'm watching you and I see a big snake slithering down your bookcase and I'm going, no, look at me, and you can see it in your mirror, the camera, you want to turn around and look at that so that you can move away, or if it starts sliding out the door, to go further back into the room. Okay, so what I tend to do is allow the dog to look at the scary thing, person or dog, okay, at a distance that they feel safe, or at least show non-aggressive behaviours. Okay, and now we're reinforcing that with food. Food's a good choice here because she likes it and she'll take it. What we might do with other dogs is when she looks at the dog and looks back at us, we might walk away, okay, and give her more safety for quiet behaviour. Okay. Now the other thing, and this is what happens here, is so you see there, Millie runs and Ali picks up. She goes from sitting to standing, and then she looks at the dog. She then turns around and starts jumping. Okay, yeah. She's jumping because she doesn't know what else to do, and jumping has had a high history of previous reinforcement. So if Ali doesn't know what to do, she'll jump on a person because historically that has given her access to some reinforcement, whether it's petting, being told to get down, getting touched, to be pushed away, or whatever. Okay, so it's called resurgence, and that's very often what you see. So that's just information for us that Ali doesn't have enough reinforcement history doing other behaviours in those circumstances. Okay, and it means that we then start. We don't need to get annoyed with the dog that the dog's jumping on us. Okay, so we can run a little bit more.
Okay, turn in towards me and start walking towards her. Sorry, walk towards me rather. Good, she'll come with you here. Okay. Lovely. Relax your arm.
So
wonderful.
So again, the pulling and the lead here is not what we're working on.
Okay.
You see there, I don't know what to do, I'm going to jump up.
There we go.
So now we've got a few more dogs, and you'll see her looking more at the dogs and less at her person. Because this is
slowly meander forward, just take a couple of steps forward now. Relax your arm. Good. Nice. She switches on again, stop, that's fine, take a half step towards her. Lovely.
just letting her look around, and she looks fairly relaxed.
To just turn in towards me. Okay, relax that arm. Just say, let's go. Good. Slowly start walking off. She'll come with you. There we go. Lovely.
Okay. So what we've said to her is, you've had your look, okay, and we're going to go now. Okay. And because we're moving away from the other dogs, we're actually giving her more of what she wants. Okay. So that was a really nice example of when lots of things go right. Okay. So we use the dogs.
The lead was loose as well. The lead was slackened as well, so there's not kind of, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because very often what can happen is, so let's see an example of this. Okay, so to make a cup of tea, okay, if making a cup of tea is the behaviour, the factors that need to be in play are access to a kettle, access to tea, access to milk and sugar if you like it, access to electricity, okay, and a cup. All right. So those 5 things have to take place for the behaviour of making tea to be able to occur. Okay. If the electricity is off, there's no tea being made. Okay. But as soon as you put all those factors together, you'll get tea making. If you want a cup of tea. Okay. So very often what we get is it's not just the distance from the other dog, it is distance from other dog, tension in the lead, owner holding their breath, okay, other dog moving towards us, so that you could actually sit down and look at, there would be 6 factors in play, and by changing a few of those factors we now change the behaviour, because we're not allowing the circumstances to happen which the dog has previously learned have to take place before tea making can occur. Okay, so very often what happens is the dog is doing fine, and the handler will pick up the lead and start putting tension, and that alone will now cause the dog to kick off. So what I do there is, if we're putting tension on the lead, and you see that there is just a little bit, the lead lifts up and she feels a tiny bit of pressure. If that happens, anytime that happens, what we're always doing is walking away from another dog. So what we're doing is, although we're putting tension in the lead, we're increasing the distance, rather than putting tension in the lead and either holding or reducing the distance. So again, we're still changing factors which allow more wanted behaviour to occur. Okay.
Makes sense.
All right, so that's the first one. Okay, so this is me. The next video is me working the boy. Okay, so problem child. Okay, now what we'll do is just, can you switch the sound down on this, because we don't really, there's not any verbal on it. Okay. So what I'm doing here is, I know there's going to be dogs here. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm building up a history with Logan in this environment of doing a different behaviour. So the behaviour here is searching for the food. Okay, so he is now starting to practice another behaviour in that environment, because I know a dog's going to appear. Okay, it's just Sunday afternoon and it's a nice day, and you know, people are out with their dogs. Okay, so a wee bit of ham-fisted lead handling from me there. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm just putting some treats on the ground and giving him something else to do. Okay. So he now starts going, oh, this is a cool thing, Edmund. Okay, I can do something else. Dog, when I first got him, would not, one, he wouldn't sniff in the outside at all, and 2, wouldn't take food outside, because he was that switched on all the time, and he still has his moments, but we're making progress with him. Okay. Nice relaxed body language from me, nice lead handling, okay, and then moving with him. Alright?
Again, I'm noticing you being aware, again, the owner, client, being aware of the environment, aware of the possible risk factors, and aware of the dog. You're not on your phone, you're not staring at the sky, you know, you're engaged.
We're in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's what, I had a client yesterday and we were working with him, and the dog did something which he typically does around dogs, and he then starts telling me that the dog typically does that. Now, I fully understand why he needs to tell me that, but what he's now doing is he's referring to a moment in the past, and he's not present. And I said to him, it's cool, we'll hear about it in 2 seconds, we'll concentrate on this just now, we'll get this, because we need to be here. Now we can go away, give the dog a break, and you can tell me what you needed to tell him, because he clearly needs to tell me or he wouldn't be talking, okay? But there's a time and a place for that. So that's why we absolutely need to be present but in all dog training we need to be present. We need to be here and now with our dog. Okay. So that's the first one.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
And then the second one here. Okay. So the dog starts moving in. Okay. The dog's going to come from the left hand side of the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see him there. Now, although you can't see him directly, there's holes in the bushes and you can see the person. Okay. Again, I put some more food in the ground to see if he can take it. And I'm not distracting him here, I'm allowing him to look like that. You see the wee dog there on the path? So we're starting to get too close here, which is why I start backing off. And now I move him. Okay, I give him a second because he's going to be okay. And then I go, oh, cool, that's good. And I'm just going to move you out of there. Okay. Now, this is the nice bit from him here. So although he's switched on, he now starts checking in with me, and then I'm able to reinforce it again. Allow him to look. And that's what he used to do before. So we are too close here, okay? But he's then able to go back to sniffing the ground. So I'm saying to him, can you do this? And he says, yeah, I can. Sometimes he can and sometimes he can't. I was over the moon with him at the weekend when I shot this. It was really, really... And then he looks again, and then goes back to doing what he's doing. Okay, so he's starting to build up patterns of behaviour, or experience rather, that he can do other things in the presence of dogs. He doesn't need to eyeball them and lunge and bark and act like a lunatic. Okay. There's another look around, and then goes back to sniffing. That's massive progress for him. Yeah. Now, I'd put that video up on my Facebook page, and another trainer had commented on saying that the reason he's not engaging with me is because I'm not active enough. Okay, so what we're wanting to do when we're, you see in the first video with the Doberman, there's lots of interaction backwards and forwards between us, between the handler or the person and the dog. Okay, so there's lots of involvement from the person. Okay, so what we're doing there is we're basically giving the dog lots of instruction about how they need to behave. What I'm trying to do here with Logan, and we need to do both of these because your dog needs to be needs to be able to do both of them. There, I'm trying to let him set up the environment that he can do lots of it on his own. Okay, so I am absolutely looking for him to go, there's a dog, who cares, I can do this, go back to sniffing. Okay, and it's then he's becoming more empowered because he can go, I can control my own space here. If I want to, I can just turn and walk away and Dad will come with me. Okay, so, and we need to do both approaches, and the reason why we need to do both approaches is because the second video with Logan there teaches him how to get better. The first video shows really how not to make him any worse, or Ali worse. So if it is getting hairy, so say in the first video with the Doberman, one of those dogs had broken away from the group that they were in and started coming towards us, Ali needs to have the skills of working with a person so that the person can then say, come on, let's go, and understand what that means, understand how to move, etc., which is all the skills that we talked about in the first instance.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Right.
Okay. You want the number 4?
Yeah, please. Okay.
Okay, give him a tiny bit of slack.
Okay, give him a tiny bit of slack in that lead.
2 steps towards
Lovely.
the back
You
of
take
him.
2 steps
Lovely, and
towards me
relax
round the
that
back
elbow.
of him. Lovely, and relax that elbow.
Attaboy.
Attaboy. Loves to see your ear twitching there. Okay, that's nice. Lovely, pal. Good. So every time he disengages or looks away from these dogs, we're going to acknowledge it. Hold him here. Lovely, and he's just balancing himself there. That's nice. Right, now gently, without putting any pressure on that lead, walk towards me, and he should come with you here. Lovely, and then walk back towards me.
There we go.
There we go. Nice. Slow down, give him a second. You just need more information about the family there, okay?
Just pause it there for me, Jonathan. Okay, so similar to what we're doing with Logan there, okay? So Hudson's the boxer, and him and Malcolm have got a really lovely relationship. They work really well together. But what has happened to start up until we started working together was Malcolm's doing lots of physical prevention, and he's doing lots of the work. And what we want to do is Hudson to go and yes, just dogs. Okay, so the dog walkers who are in front of us, who walk past with the Labradors and the Retrievers, we allow Hudson to walk, and then we say to him, "Are we ready to go?" Initially, he said yes, and then he turned back around and says, "I'm not finished yet." Okay, and it was because another family started walking down from the left-hand side of the screen at the back of the skateball park. And I think that he wants to look at them to satisfy himself that there's not another dog before he turns his back on them. Okay, if we needed to there, we would have shortened that lead up and quickly and smoothly moved off to say to him, "Cool, I'm going to take the decision making out of your hands now. Okay, I'll decide because I have read lots of different stuff. You might be getting too tired, too stressed, whatever," and we move him away. So, but it was safe for us to do there. If you just play it again, it was safe for us to just let Hudson turn around and have another look.
Good. Now take take 2 steps forward onto that white line. Perfect. Just slow everything down, relax. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's a nice picture. Okay? And all that he's doing is just having a look at those dogs and seeing where they are. But this is what he needs to do, okay? Just hold him
we
here.
need to allow Hudson to do this behaviour.
Lovely. Good, that's fine. Good. Walk this way, towards the verge. Give him, lovely, give him slack in that lead. He should come with you here. Wait, lovely. There we go. Nice, stop there. He needs more time because he's telling you. See how each time he goes back to look at those dogs, he's telling you, "I'm not finished yet." Okay, this is nice. That's just because the dog's running. Okay, keep looking at him. Okay, hold him here. Now start walking, relax. Start walking back towards me. Give him slack in that lead. There we go, that's why we use a long lead. Good, now just wait for him.
So the rule there is, the reason why I started walking away with him is because he started getting, his body language started getting higher, if you like. Okay, so basically, and this is not particularly technical, more. All right, his body language got more. Okay, so it got more stiff, more intense, more upright, more ears forward. Okay, and he started more movement towards the dogs. Okay, now all those things are in play from your dog's body language. I'm saying we're not doing that now. Okay, if you're going to approach a dog, you're going to approach that dog with loose, relaxed behaviour. Okay, because that's how you should be approaching a dog. So we're giving him plenty of opportunity there to make decisions. If he made the wrong decision, we then said, "We're not doing that. We're going to move 6 feet, 8 feet away, and we're going to see if he can do it there." Okay. Now, when you watch, if you're to go on to, if you see before and after videos on either on a television or if you're to search on YouTube for them, this is not sexy training, okay? So it's not seeing the dog kicking off and us miraculously doing something about it, okay? What we actually should be doing here is I say to the clients I work with, the magic happens when the dog is not showing aggressive behaviours, because those are the behaviours that we want, okay? So with Hudson there, if we're not ready to go there until he shows more relaxed behaviours, and we get more relaxed behaviours by doing more practice at this, okay? Dog's dreaming. So yeah, he's okay. Right. So now with Ali, the Doberman, okay, she's shown fairly, and again it's on a sliding scale, fairly relaxed behaviour and able to focus on her person at that distance from Millie. If she's able to do it at 25 yards, with practice she's able to do it at 20, 24, 22, 21, 19. Okay, but you don't keep chipping away. You don't make it more and more and more difficult each time. What you do is you make it a little bit more challenging, and then you back off and start again, and then a little bit more challenging, and then back off and start again. And you're basically over time, you're chipping away that distance. Okay, so if you can drive a car, when you're learning to drive a car, first lesson you'll really get out a second gear. Okay. But if you can put your car in gear and make it go forward, you can drive your car at 100 miles an hour. You just need to learn all the steps in between, but you don't start there, So because you don't have a skill set for it, okay.
First lesson isn't sexy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, so with when we're dealing with aggressive dogs, we actually don't want a successful training session is when everything goes smoothly. Like, it's just the dog is nice and relaxed and pottering about and seeing the dog and then either moving towards or moving away in a relaxed fashion. Okay. The other thing that I just wanted to briefly talk about is called trigger stacking. We might have talked about it with the barking webinar. So trigger stacking is where a series of stressors which on their own wouldn't cause the dog to react aggressively happen either all together or in such quick succession that the dog doesn't have time to cool off. Okay, so the example I use is it's the end of May in Scotland. That's usually when we get that 2 weeks of summer, so it's like 75 or 80 degrees, and it's a Saturday morning. We've got a nice relaxed weekend ahead of us, and you're in your shorts and your sandals and you drive into the supermarket to go and buy your barbecue, and as you drive in, somebody steals your parking space and you go, oh, okay, and you just drive round or you drive further along and you park somewhere else. Okay, so that's in a really low stress environment. Everything is going well. Okay, money in the bank, you're speaking to your missus, your kids are well behaved. Okay, everything is going well in your life and you go, yeah, who cares? Okay, so now what is, it's the 2 days before Christmas. You've just had to get 2 new tyres for your car. So that's £400 odd, whatever it is, £300-400 that you didn't think that you're going to have to spend the day before, or the 2 days before Christmas. You're loaded with the cold. Your boss is shouting at you because there's a deadline which you've not met yet. You've not bought the turkey. You've not slept the night before because you don't feel well, and the sleet is hitting your windscreen horizontally. And you drive into a Tesco car park and somebody steals your parking space and all of a sudden you just explode. Okay, so that's trigger stacking to the nth degree. Okay, what we get is a good training session, and this is why even with when you did that intro with the 15 minutes, okay, we can work on your dog's aggressive behaviour in 15-minute chunks. Okay, so what you would really want to do is do a little bit and then back off and give your dog something cool to do, and then come back and do a little bit more and then back off again. And what you're trying to do is keep that temperature down. Okay, so the other analogy that I give is, say if your dog hits 100 degrees, and that's when he'll show this big aggressive response. Most social dogs, okay, same as with most social people, they probably meander through life most of the time sitting at about 40 degrees. So even if the temperature doubles, they're only going up to 80. Okay, so that's hot for them, but it's well below boiling point. Okay, so you hit 80 degrees and then you cool off again, and you've got the ability to cool off because you've got so much other good stuff going on in your life. Okay, what happens when we work with dogs like these is you bring them to the park and the dog's already at 60 degrees or 70 degrees before you even get in there, because the dog's anticipating, I'm going to meet dogs in this environment because I've always met dogs in this environment before. Okay, so you see your first dog and the dog goes up to 75 degrees and you do really well. Okay, so dog goes up to 75, you do everything cool, reinforce all those behaviours, and you either keep him at 75 or you bring him back down to 72. Okay, so you're now 2 degrees heavier than your baseline was when in the park. You now see another dog and you go up to 77, and then you come back down to 75, and then you go up to 80, back down to 77, up to 82, 83, back down to 80. So you see how over the course of an hour, if you're not giving your dog enough opportunity to cool off, it just builds a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and then after 40 minutes, the dog's just like, I've had enough. Okay, get me out of here. Okay. Now, when one is learning how to do this, the tendency for us, it becomes so reinforcing for us that your dog is now showing relaxed behaviours in the environment where they would ordinarily show aggressive behaviour. So that's massively reinforcing for us, which means they're going to do more of it. Okay, so what happens is you're like, one more round, I'm just going to try get another round in, and what you should be doing is doing 3 less rounds. So if you're at the stage when you're working with a dog like this that you think your dog's had enough, make a note of the time that you've been out and the number of exposures you've had, and see the next time you come out, stop 10 minutes before that. Because we don't want a dog just to be on the cusp all the time. We want a dog to leave with all those good experiences. Mm-hmm. So with the video with Logan, with me putting the food down into the grass, I go at quiet times and I build lots of experience in those environments doing cool things, so that he's now not expecting, he looks round, there's not dogs, cool, okay, we'll spend 20 minutes, half an hour just bimbling around, searching for food. I clap him and then I take him home and he goes, that was really nice. And I go, I know, it was, wasn't it? Right. So the next time we come back there, he's got some reference to being outside in a public place where he can smell dogs and go, that was kind of cool. Yeah, that was cool. Okay. So hopefully it's just a brief introduction to give people an idea of what kind of things are involved in working with a dog who's shown aggressive behaviours. And if I would give the one thing that I would say, the single biggest factor in this that I have found is distance from the stressor. So distance from the dog or the person. And if you can create that distance that the dog needs, and he's then shown non-aggressive behaviours, you've now got behaviours which reinforce. And over time, if you can just start chipping away at that. And that's something that somebody who's relatively unskilled can do relatively easily and relatively often. You know,
it makes me think of. Sorry, an analogy that sprang to mind is if you're going to the gym because you want to lose fat or build some muscle, you're going to record how many reps you did, on what kind of weight you did, on what machine you did. You know, you're there to train. You're not there to whine and bitch or socialise. You know, and you keep records. People who keep records break records. If you care about your dog and you want your relationship to be great and you want to have fun with that animal for as long as you possibly can, you need to be. You've dragged this animal on a chain. It's like dragging a phobic person on a chain to a snake full of snakes, and then when they try and get away, you yank the chain and go, no, I'm not doing that. What do you think's going to happen, you know?
Absolutely.
It's very interesting. Again, the same theme of be aware, and it's a synergistic relationship.
Yeah. And just the other thing as well is when you're about your record keeping, and this is when people start, we've talked about this before as well. Okay, I'm pretty sure we did the last time. So we've got scenario A, okay, and scenario A has 7 factors which then cause the dog to show aggressive behaviours. Okay, so under scenario A, with those 7 factors, your dog will show aggression 100% of the time. Okay, for this example. Okay, we now have scenario A minus 1, so minus 1 of those factors, and your dog is now not showing aggressive behaviours or only showing aggressive behaviours 90% of the time. So that's a 10% improvement with one change. Okay, now if you change a number of those factors, you'll now get a bigger chunk of improvement. Okay, so say for talking sake, scenario A, prior to training, 100% of the time the dog will show aggressive behaviours. With time it now goes to 90, 80, 70, 60 and so on. Okay. Now if I made those gains, if I made a 10% improvement or a 20% or 30% improvement in the gym this week, I'd be delighted. Okay, but unfortunately it doesn't happen like that. Okay. So now what happens is when it gets into the small numbers, so if we think about it, 100% of the time is seeing 100 dogs and your dog will kick off. Okay, 90% of the time now means seeing 90 out of 100 and the dog will kick off. 80% and so on. Now what happens is that you might go, when you get into 1%, that means for every 100 dogs you see, your dog only reacts to one of them, reacts aggressively to one of them. And now you go like that, what the hell happened there? He's doing so well, right? He's still doing well because he's only reacting aggressively 1 in 100, whereas before it was 100 out of 100. Then it goes to 1 in 150, 1 in 200, 1 in 250. You see how the behaviour is diminishing but not entirely going away. It's just getting less and less and less, and we're getting longer and longer and longer between reactive episodes or aggressive episodes. And those are the ones that our eye is drawn towards. And you now start going back to your previous patterns of behaviour, which then opens the door, the roadblock which you have previously set up, and your dog just belts down that motorway for the aggressive behaviours, and now you get 3 or 4 or 5 incidents in a row. And all that you've done now, and I say that to the client, look at the numbers. So they'll come back to me after a couple of months and say, he's reacted 6 times in the last week. And I say, cool. In the last 2 months, how many times has your dog reacted aggressively? And they'll say 10. And I say, and 6 of those have been in the last week? Yep. So the first thing we'll do is, has there been changed to your routine? Has there been changed to the amount of exercise he's given, to what they've been feeding him, to where he's been sleeping, or whatever? That's the first thing we would rule out. And then what I say to them is, although it's been 6 in the last week, it's been 10 in the last 2 months. Whereas before, in the last 2 months, prior to you working with me, we would have been in the hundreds and hundreds, and it's now been 10. Cool, that's fine. Let's just get back on the wagon and keep doing what we were doing, and those numbers will start tailing off again. And then the big improvements are then when your dog will react aggressively 1 in 500 times or 1 in 1,000 times. And see, when we get into those numbers, that's now within the normal parameters of what would you have expected it to be an aggressive response for most members of a species living in a society with those species. And I say this to my clients as well. On the drive here today, how many times did you shout at another driver? Some of them say no, none, right? And I say, cool, I've shouted at 3 people, right, for undue hesitancy at a junction, right? You know, that's a drill. So that's an aggressive display, okay? But if I was reacting like that, every single interaction I would be having, that's not cool, okay?
Yeah.
But you might just think he's a wee bit of a hothead and he shouts out, shouts occasionally when he's driving. Most people do that, and it's okay. Obviously, we would want to do less of that, but it's still within the normal expression of human behaviour or canine behaviour.
Yeah, yeah. But it's aggression in dogs towards other dogs or any other living animal is I suppose you could call it an extreme behaviour. It's a nightmare scenario, and it makes sense that it's going to take a bit of work to get it done. But as ever, I think watching the way you work and watching it's a two-way relationship, probably living in the now, I'm watching you being aware of the environment and being aware of the triggers. With that, it's the old phrase says if you want to, you have to go out on a limb because that's where the fruit is. You know, if you want
Yeah.
the big reward, you want the big gain, you need to do the work.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic relationship. It's a fantastic relationship building exercise. And at the end of the day, isn't that the reason why you've got the animal in the first place?
Yeah.
You know?
You're providing your dog with what they need, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're providing them with the food that they need, the shelter that they need, the medical care that they need, why wouldn't you provide them with their emotional needs as well, which might be, please don't put in towards that dog, I don't like them. You know, why you wouldn't do that with your partner or your child? I don't want to go to that party. It's full of people that I don't like. Cool, we don't need to go. Okay.
Yeah.
You know. So.
You will.
Yeah.
You will, and you'll like it.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I just love the stuff you do, and I love where it goes. You know, interestingly, I noticed always moving towards the animal, which I presume is to slacken the lead.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
the main reason?
Moving in to take that pressure off the lead. Yeah, so that we're not holding the dog back. And the dog got to that space. We let them get there. So I think it's fairer for us just to take 2 steps or a half step towards them to take that, rather than pulling the dog back in and leading the pressure off. Okay,
Yeah.
We let the dog get there, so we really need to do the work. You know, because if you're to shorten the lead up and hold them there while you've still got slack, you wouldn't need to move your feet.
Yeah.
So you then give them that slack because you're standing right next to them and you've got a couple of feet of slack left.
Superb. So if someone's watching this and they're motivated, they're inspired, they're liking what they hear, but they want some expert guidance on it, what's the best way to get in touch with you, John?
So you can email me through my website, which is glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk, or direct email is info@glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk. I'm on Facebook as Glasgow Dog Trainer and Behaviour Consultant. You can contact me through there. Most of my videos are on YouTube as well as Facebook, and that's Glasgow Dog Trainer on YouTube. And the course on aggression that we've basically just done a tiny introduction to this evening, I will be, next year I'll be getting that online so that people can come on and look at the 8-10 hours of learning on that as well. And that's basically just going into what we've done this evening and what we've done this evening in more depth and a lot more than that as well. So that's
it does sound like what's the old phrase about an inch wide and a mile deep? It sounds like a big topic. Listen, as usual, love your information, and I hope this has been useful to anybody watching it tonight. Get in touch with John, share his stuff. He's easy to find on the web, and benefit from it. You and your animal will be grateful for it at the end of the day. So, thanks for your time, John, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Great stuff. Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.